I do care the president doesn't have the mental ability to know when the mic's on and when it's not on. How does this guy not know where he is?
Well, you and I both know he's in a state of serious cognitive decline. But Jesse, there's a bigger issue there than that. I think everybody understands that now. What's interesting is, I don't know if you remember, in 2012 there was a same day exit poll done on the Romney Obama election, and on the question of who would do best on the economy, it was Mitt Romney. But on the question of who would you most like to have a beer with or who most understands you, it was Obama. Obama was considered more likable, a guy that cared about you. And Romney was aloof and distant and erudite and rich, right? Well, with Trump, they made Trump out to be this evil, mean tweet guy. He was evil. But Uncle Joe, he's like your grandpa. He's a nice guy. He's a likable guy. There'll be no more mean tweets. So when Joe Biden calls Peter Doocy, you mean son. Well, that makes him, he's a temper tantrum waiting to happen. He's an angry man. This is a guy who said that his son, Hunter Biden, is the smartest guy he's ever met. And Peter Doocy, this reporter, is an SOB. What you're beginning to see is the crumbling of Biden before our very eyes for what he really is and what he's long been known as in the Senate, which is a very angry, petty, cruel individual. And that will hurt him more than the cognitive decline or bad policies. Because everybody, housewives can understand that. Truck drivers can understand. He's a mean guy. He's not a good person.
Michael,
Listen up. Really
I struggle with this, and you.
Did they teach you to do that? Because when you were just a radio guy, you didn't know how to do that. That's impressive. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, look, I'm a formidable person. That's what it is. I have so many skills that just come naturally to me that I can't figure out what I got, from God or what I came up with on my own. I'm more of a Renaissance man than anything else. As you well know, I do suffer though from a short temper from time to time. We're not going to go into all the details of it, but I suffer from a short temper.
It's a true story.
And because of that, I struggle with what I want the GOP to do when they inevitably take back the House. And let's say, by the grace of God, take back 2024. I look at the evil of denying people medical treatments, and I say that's no different than what Jeffrey Dahmer did. And I don't care if you're a doctor or a president or you're at the FDA. If you looked at a medical treatment that could save someone's life and you said no, you should stand trial for crimes. Is that just my short temper? Am I out of line? Is that suicidal? Where am I?
You're a dad. You know that if you tell your children, your boys, don't do this, and they do it, you either punish them and there are consequences, or that behavior never stops until you do, right? We all understand the concept of discipline. If there are no consequences for these behaviors, then these behaviors will continue. There have to be consequences. There has to be a Nuremberg trial of the COVID era. And you made the point earlier today. You said it needs to be government and healthcare. I think it also needs to be a part of government, FBI. I think some of these FBI, there were never any real consequences other than James Baker going to prison. There were never any real consequences for what they did to Trump. There were never any real consequences for Peter Strzok and his mistress, Lisa Page, and all the things they did. For Jim Comey. I mean, Jim Comey's influence continues his daughter in the Rittenhouse. In the Ghislaine Maxwell case. It's really it's frustrating to me. And until there are consequences for these people, they'll continue on. It took decades to chase down all of the Nazi war criminals. And the world stood by and let them because we all understood every single one of those SOBs should go to prison or be punished for that. And whether it's Demjanjuk or you name it, 60 years later, it has to happen. Yes, I think you're dead on.
Do we have a GOP? I understand the GOP is spineless. You rail on this on your show all the time. I do too. Do we have a GOP that is getting a spine? I don't want to be all just bag on the GOP all the time. They've been worthless. They've been pathetic. Are they toughening up at all?
No, because they're more concerned, as you well know, they're more concerned with how they're going to be perceived in the Washington salons, at the cocktail parties. Every Republican secretly wants to be in the cool club. They want to hang. Look at Chris Christie. What a fool he was made by Bruce Springsteen. Springsteen and Obama calling Chris Christie right before the 2012 election. And hey, my old buddy, my old New Jersey buddy, and they hang up the phone and they're laughing at Chris Christie, fatso eating another donut, because Chris Christie so desperately wanted to be in the cool club. They all want to hang out with movie actors and movie stars and all of this, so they don't want to be perceived as Trump was, as the turd in the punch bowl. They don't want to be the guy that's speaking for the common man. They want to show, hey, I'm not radical. And that's the problem with McCain and Romney and, frankly, Dan Crenshaw. That's the problem with all these guys, is they want to be in the cool club. And if you want to be in the cool club, you can't represent real America, flyover America.
No, it's 100% right. You know what? That's a great segue. I know you did that by accident. You would never come up with this on purpose. But that's a great segue into another question, which is the Trump DeSantis. I don't think it's a feud. I personally, and this is a personal opinion, I believe it's going to be. I think those two are on a collision course. What should people think about that? I say they should both get in and have a nice fight, and may the best man win, but that makes people uncomfortable. How should people think about that?
Well, I think it's a conversation we can't begin to have until 2023, because otherwise we'll screw around and mess up 2022. And if Republicans can do anything to mess up 2022 in the midterms, they will. And when the Washington Post is writing about the fact that DeSantis and Trump are at each other's throat, what they're trying to do is split the Trump-DeSantis coalition. That's the America First voter. That's the guy that's the independent voter. That's the truck driver. That's the gun owner. And if you split those two before 2022, then you might just pick off a few Democrat positions here and there. And that's what they're hoping to accomplish. And that can't happen. That battle should happen, and it should begin in earnest in 2023 and not a second before. I will tell you, I had a conversation with Christina Pushaw, who you know, in DeSantis's office. And I asked that very question, and she said, we're focused on the governor's office. We love Donald Trump. He loves us, and that's our only comment. And I got to tell you, I applauded her. This was off air. I said, that's exactly what you should be saying. That's the perfect answer. How come I don't have a nice Chiron down here? People may not even know who I am.
Well, I mean, look, honestly, we had to deal with the CZAR stuff. We're not dealing with the little Chiron and all that stuff, too. All right, finally.
Can I talk about messaging? Because I made notes. I never make notes. I made notes.
You know what? Talk about messaging. Michael, what is it? Talk about messaging.
Democrats are better at messaging than Republicans. This is a great segue. Thank you. Democrats are better at messaging than Republicans. Much better. We won Virginia. Youngkin won Virginia because messaging, because of critical race theory. And Chris Rufo deserves a lot of credit for everyday Americans understanding what critical race theory is. We've got to be careful that we don't just talk about bond reform and funding cops and border and illegal immigration. We talk about the issue as it affects people, and that is crime. All of those things are affecting crime. We're watching people. The crime rate is at a 25-year high. Crime, number one, everybody gets it. There's nobody's for crime. We got to be the crime party, the anti-crime party. Instead of critical race theory and teachers unions, we need to be talking about schools and kids. They're messing with your kids. They're teaching your kids a bunch of nonsense, pablum, anti-American, anti-white, anti-your child. It's all bad. Health. You and I talk a lot about this. The decision over your health, is it you individually or is it the government? And we don't want it to be the government. Media and big tech. If we're the party against the media and big tech, a lot of people want to stick it to those guys. And I mean, if the vote for the Republicans will stick it to media and big tech and censorship and all that nonsense, then I'm for it. Even people that are still on Twitter and Facebook, those people hate Twitter and Facebook's ownership and their censorship. We've got to win the messaging battle, and that's where Republicans usually lose.